I found this great new study that I think we should all know about because it's a lot of good news, in my warrior's opinion. Please subscribe to our channel. As always, you know that we need to build numbers, we need to get into those algorithms, we need to be able to share information with you that you can then pass on, things you may not be hearing about anywhere else. The new study is about our teens, and they want less sex in movies and television. And I want to go through this. I think it's very important. They want movies and television shows to be more about family, friendships, relationships, more kind of what they're craving everyday life. We know from algorithms and plenty of studies, platforms such as Netflix, animation, Disney Plus, they say they're for adults or 18 plus, or sometimes they say 17 plus or 13 plus. But we know kids, for instance, are always drawn to animation, right? So even if it's created, they say the content is for adults or older teens, kids are going to be drawn to it. We also have lots of shows. Remember that show Big Mouth on Netflix? It's supposed to be for adults, but cartoon characters were, some of the characters were children. So there's a lot of sexuality in our entertainment, our streaming shows, our music, online. We can all agree to that. But let me tell you about this study. They really want to know, and this is very telling, I think. They really want to know what it's like about relationships, friendships. That's what friendship more than any kind of like sexual boyfriend girlfriend. They want to know about relationships. And this is a study done by the University of California, Los Angeles Center for Scholars and Storytellers, entitled Teens and Screens. And the survey, they spoke to about 1,500 different children, ages 10 to 24. So you've got a good variation there. 10, I mean, that's a child, definitely. 24, definitely a young adult. But listen to what they found. The researchers found that 63.5% of adolescents said they preferred the big and small screen stories focus on friendships. Good news. While 62.4% said sexual content is not needed as a plot device. And those are very big jumps from the previous year when we had a study that told us 51.5% of those surveyed said they wanted more content about people in platonic relationships, and 47.5% said they didn't seek out shows or movies where sex was a major plot point. The survey poll did not poll respondents between the ages of 10 to 13 about their attitudes on sexually explicit content. So that was, those were questions that were asked of the older, the 18 plus to 24 group. And this emerging trend is that young people are very tired of seeing the same old dated, unrelatable, romantic kind of plot lines on the screen. And this is according to the director, Alicia J. Hines, of the Research Center. And they want to see more authentic stories. I'm liking this altogether because I've been talking about here, the Warriors, the pendulum will swing back ever so slightly, but it will be swinging back. And this is direct proof that that's happening. So she said they want to see a full spectrum of nuanced relationships. Now take that how you may. But it also points out, family relationships, just friendships with friends. Let's just turn the phone off, live YouTube. But 36.2% of the adolescents said they enjoyed content that took place in fantasy worlds over stories about the rich and famous. I'm loving that. 7.2%, that was 7.2%. Real life issues, 13.9%. Personal issues, 24.2%. Or other genres, 3.3%. So of course you have to delve in. What are those personal issues, 24.2%? Also, what about, it's only 7.2%, but still, about the fantasy worlds. Whose fantasy world? What fantasy worlds? What's involved in these fantasy worlds? And when it came to their favorite type of entertainment, 39.2% of the teens opted for playing video games. No new news here. We've known that, right? Compared to 33.3% who chose watching television or movies, and 27.5% who picked scrolling on social media platforms. When it came to digital forms of entertainment, 38.8% of the adolescents said that YouTube was the most authentic social media platform, followed by TikTok 36.3 and Instagram 28.3. We do know X, formerly known as Twitter, was the least authentic with 18.1% of respondents favoring it. We do know with kids and young people that, again, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are the three top platforms. We also know, but here's why I think it's good. We also know that you have to talk to your kids about all of these platforms, right? Very easily you can talk to them about, so what games are you playing? Oh, I don't know that game. Why don't you show me? I mean, again, age appropriate, right? With the teens, it's a whole different thing. You got to talk to them over the dinner table. You got to talk to them while you're driving them in a car somewhere. But a 24-year-old, right? That's technically 18 to 24, an adult. How are you talking to them? I think open and honestly, that's considered an adult. You're the adult as the parent. You have a conversation, and preferably when you're together. Those conversations always work in person better than when you're texting, when you're on a phone where people have the chance to not text back, hang up the phone, fights break out. Again, when you're in person, and it's not us versus them, it's together. It's this family digital partnership. Even if your 18 to 24-year-old is away at college, they're living in their own apartment, you figure out a way to create this family digital partnership. And certainly, let me remind you, if you're paying, which most likely you are, for these devices, for these apps, for these games kids are buying, for the internet, you have every right that these are jointly owned devices. We all own them. It's not their phone. Parents never say that, actually, but they should start saying that. That needs to be the lingo. That's something at the Warriors, the workshops we do, that we teach. These are shared devices. That is our phone, okay? That includes the adults. It is our phone type of thing. That doesn't mean, you're handing your phone over to your child to look at things and all that, but you just get into this lingo with them. And kids used to seek out, right, more erotic type of material. And then if they heard anything in the media, there was something salacious in it or sexual, they certainly wanted to see it and see what was going on. But they're turning away from that. So after movies declined, when can I say movies declined? Remember, there were a lot of great movies. I'm going to date myself now, like going back. Before these big blockbusters, we always had the big blockbusters. Remember, like Thanksgiving weekend was a big one here in New York City for movies opening. People would wait, and sometimes they'd start it on Thanksgiving itself or that Wednesday night before. No, usually it was Thanksgiving night. That was a big movie night in New York City. I'm going back now to the 80s. Movies would break, school breaks in the springtime. There was always a Christmas movie. Do you remember this? We anticipated, we waited, and then we went, right? In those crowds. Remember, think back to those days. But when that kind of all died out, programs like, remember Game of Thrones? That was on for years. That became very popular. The Affair, that was another one. I never got into it. I never really watched it. I think I watched a couple of episodes. But programming became, and I'm going to say, the demarcation for me is always the early 2000s, like 2004, 5, 6, for some reason. I'll just leave it at that. But programming became very permissive. And Hollywood started spending less money on making actual movies about families. And remember, we had all kinds of kids' movies in those days, and all kinds of stuff going on. They were not doing that, so obviously it transitioned onto the streaming platforms, right? First it was cable, then it became streaming. I remember one time being in a meeting 15 years ago, and I said, streaming will be our future, and I was laughed out of the room. Who's laughing now? But I remember saying, this is it. They didn't want to hear about it. Here we are. But in recent months, we have seen some provocative content hitting the screens, but you know what? They're being made and marketed to older audiences. They're no longer thinking about the kids. They're no longer targeting kids. They know it's a failure at the box office. So I think this is great news. It's a place to start. Obviously, who's creating the content. We always have to be aware of what's behind the content, what company's behind the content. But it's 2024. We're in the final quarter, going into 2025. Can you even believe that? You have to do your due diligence. You have to do your homework. But hats off to kids who want to see movies about friendships, relationships, families. That goes along with the Alpha generation or Generation Alpha. I'm not sure which way it goes, but it doesn't matter. That is those kids born 2010 forward, right? So they're babies. 14 could be the oldest for Gen Alpha, I'll call them. And we do know from studies that they are putting phones down. They are reading actual hardcover books. So I have a lot of hope for the future. Things are looking good. Things are looking good. And with that, always talk to your child age appropriately, open and honestly. Always talk to your young adults. They're young adults. Open and honestly. Remember, community creates change. That is our hashtag at The Warriors. If you need help, you can always write to me, Lynn at lynswarriors.org. Go to our website. I put things up there every day, lynswarriors.org. Are you following the theme here? Lynn's Warriors, because I want all of you to be empowered, uplifted, and do whatever you can do, because everybody can do a little something, right? In your own home. That is good enough. In your own environment, in your own community. And you must. We can all do something. We must. I'm going to leave it at that. Remember, hug your kids, kiss your kids, and each and every day, get up and go out and be a warrior.